Welcome back to the course titled Strategic Communication for Sustainable Development. My name is Aradhana Malik and I teach at the Indian Institute of Technology in Kharagpur, West Bengal, India, and I am helping you with the course for the next few sessions. So, we have discussed a few basic concepts in this course. We have discussed what sustainability is, what sustainable development is, and how communication becomes a part or how communication is necessary for sustainable development. Today, we will discuss a concept called sustainability communication. This is the time when all of this starts coming together, and this is a new concept. And a lot of debate is going on regarding how or what should be included in this concept, and a lot of discussion is going on, and a lot of eminent researchers and activists in the field have come up with various definitions and various explanations of this concept. But it's such a wonderful concept because it is not sustainability alone, it is not communication alone, it is communication for sustainability or sustainability communication, which is a little more integrated than just communication for sustainable development. So, to revisit a little bit sustainability and communication, why is communication necessary for sustainability? Again, this is this book by edited by Goldman and Michelson, and I have shown you this book in the previous class. So yeah, thank you. So this is a book called Sustainability Communication, Interdisciplinary Perspectives and Theoretical Foundations. It's not a textbook, but this will serve as a very good reference book, and it's been edited by Jasmine Goldman and Gerd Michelson, and it's been published by Springer in the year 2011. A lot of material has come up after this book was published also, but this is such a wonderful it provides such a wonderful introduction or insight into this whole concept of sustainability communication. And Goldman and Michelson discuss how communication relates to sustainability, and it's a very long sentence where we talk about, they say necessity of communication can be found in the anthropologic circumstance that each consciousness is isolated. Our neurophysiological, cognitive, emotional processes are mutually unobservable, and there is no direct access to the thoughts, attitudes and intentions of the other. It is through communication that the interior is exteriorized. And putting it very simply, that we cannot find out what is going on in another person's mind. So it is only in and through communication, it is only in and through the exchange of ideas and interpretation of another person's ideas that we understand what the other person is really thinking, what they have, what they are going through, how much help they need, what we can do together. So it's only in and through communication that we can inform each other, that we become social creatures. So communication is thus the principle of societal organization itself. When we live in a community, communication is what helps us bind with each other, what helps form the community. It forms the basis of any social fabric. And especially in development efforts where no one person can do anything single-handedly, when a team is required, when large teams of people are required to do different things in order to alleviate the standard of life. I won't say standard of living, because that includes the quantification of whatever a person has, but the standard of life, how comfortable you are, how your value systems evolve, all of those things. So when we talk about alleviation of standard of life of people, that's when we start, we need teams. Nobody can do it single-handedly, and in order for us to form a team, we need to be able to understand what other people in the community are thinking, feeling, what they want, what their value systems are, what their resources are, and we cannot find that out till we communicate with them. And sustainability communication is thus a process of mutual understanding, dealing with the future development of society, at the core of which is a vision of sustainability. So at the core of our values and ideas and beliefs, there is the thought, is the vision that we need to maintain a certain set of assets in terms of the social fabric, in terms of the material wealth that we have, and in terms of the environmental resources that we have. And we need to build on that basic set of assets, and we need to use whatever we have built on that basic set of assets. So that is what the whole principle of sustainability talks about. And it is sustainability communication is a process in which we communicate, in which we share this vision with everybody around us, and we come to a mutual understanding of how much this, or through which we quantify, in a manner of speaking, the set of assets that we have, and we decide where do we draw the line between preserving what we have and when do we start using what we are earning. So how do we decide how much we have already? How do we decide where, how much we are going to use and how much we are going to save for future generations? And that happens in and through this communication about different aspects of sustainability. In the previous class, we discussed communication of sustainability, communication about sustainability, and communication for sustainability. So all of these three aspects are covered. Then we come to the theoretical framing of sustainability communication. Some characteristics that have been proposed by Goldman and Michelson are, the first characteristic of sustainability communication is reflexivity. Reflexivity relates to or indicates an ability to look at a problem, to look at a situation from various angles and then adjust and adapt to this holistic interpretation of a situation. So reflexivity in regards to a problematic situation and how to handle it. Acceptability of other people's points of view, acceptability of other aspects of looking at a situation, understanding that no one aspect can be totally complete and it has to be an integration of various aspects of a problem, integration of the way different people from different domains, the way different people with different value systems look at a problem. The second characteristic of sustainability communication is establishment of sustainability as an intrinsic social value and the related issue of creating acceptance with the possibility of different interpretations of sustainability clashing with each other. So what is it? What is it that sustainability means? So establishment of, sustainability should be something at the very core of everybody's, we should all want to preserve our assets and then eat off of the profits. That should be at the very core of how we look at our resources. Now, where do we draw the line? How do we decide what our resources are? How do we decide to use them? All of that can change, but at the core of everything should be the firm belief in the minds of everybody who is discussing, whose voice is going to be heard, that this is what we need to do. We need to preserve a certain set of resources in terms of the social fabric, in terms of our material wealth, and in terms of our environmental resources. And that needs to be ingrained in all of us, or as many people around us as possible. For example, we have a lot of people talking about environmental sustainability. Many of us talk about the importance of a green environment, and then I'm just as guilty as anyone else regarding this. I'm talking about sustainability, and I have a plastic bottle. Can you please focus on this bottle? Yeah. Fun. Yeah, can you please focus the camera on this bottle? Thank you. So I am carrying a bottle of water with me, and this is a plastic bottle, and I am using this. I'm not using anything else. I'm not. I refill it occasionally, and once in a while I'll just go and buy a brand new bottle of water. So when we talk about sustainability, I'm not totally, I'm just as guilty as anyone else of not being totally committed to the concept of sustainability, because I feel that this is the safest form of drinking water, that will not upset my stomach, and that is the reasoning most of us have. Or when we randomly print large amounts of paper and then just discard things. We in our offices, we tend to print a lot of things. We tend to leave the air conditioning on for long periods of time, or we tend to switch on our geysers and forget about them, and we tend to use electricity where we don't need to use it. So when we talk about sustainability, we all need to be careful about this. We tend to discard our plastics into the environment without really realizing how they're going to harm the environment. So on the one hand, we are talking about sustainability, on the other hand, we are generating so much of plastic and throwing it indiscriminately in places where we know it will not be recycled, where we know it will be harming the environment. And that is where all of us falter. Many of us don't even think twice. So I could go on publishing papers about sustainability and doing these things on the side, and that is where the disconnect occurs. So this is what we are talking about: establishment of sustainability as an intrinsic social value. Now here is where communication comes in. I'm talking to you about this, and at the same time I'm reminding myself and feeling guilty about carrying a plastic bottle with me wherever I go. So communication helps you reflect. It helps you reason out things with yourself and among other people. The third aspect of sustainability communication is the tendency to normalization, with the consequence that the more sustainability becomes a topic, the less attention it receives and the less pressure there is to reach understanding. And this aspect is so important, because when we talk about the tendency to normalization, we are essentially talking about the making it's not going to be, we are talking about it not being such a hot topic, such something that requires a lot of discussion, because we start understanding it, we start internalizing it, and it just sort of there is no pressure to find out what it means. So it's all about internalizing it. It's all about understanding the very core of sustainability. Another characteristic of sustainability communication is the medialization, which is an attempt to counter the tendency to normalization in sustainability discourse by coupling it to the media. So when we bring something into the media, then the discussions go on and on and on, and a lot of things are repeated and they are brought up for discussion. The media has, of course, there is a lot of merit to that, because the media helps us clarify a lot of concepts by involving a lot of people in discussions, by throwing it out to the public, by throwing it out to the stakeholders who can comment on it. So it helps us refine the understanding that we have of these concepts. And then let's talk a little bit about methods in sustainability communication. How is sustainability communication operationalized? How do we do sustainability communication? That's what we'll talk about. One of the methods used in sustainability communication is social marketing. Social marketing is a very interesting concept. It's an approach in sustainability communication in which the same principles in selling goods and services can be used to support a process of voluntary individual behavioral change regarding such social issues such as saving energy or conservation. Now this means that we can use the typical traditional business methods to propose, to propagate a topic of social importance, to propagate a topic of social value, something like sustainability or social development. What is marketing? Marketing is influencing the masses, convincing people, helping people understand that there is a need to get something, to buy something. So here, instead of buying material goods, we are helping them buy into an idea of maintaining their social environment. That includes their economic environment, their preservation of the social and cultural fabric, or catering to the interests and needs of the community, and maintaining their material wealth. So we are essentially helping them buy into the idea of social development by convincing them using traditional methods of hardcore business profit marketing. And it rests on word of mouth communication. The more the people talk about it, the more the people get interested in it, and the easier it becomes to convince people. So this WOM theory, WOM, WOM theory is what social marketing rests on. Another method in sustainability communication is empowerment strategies, and these strategies involve developing the competence to recognize the non-sustainable activities and then applying knowledge about sustainability to remedy them. Communication and participation together with educational processes are meant to strengthen civic society, promote individual engagement, and support political education processes that enable individuals to actively take part in shaping a sustainable society. So we another method is to empower the community, developing the competence within the community to understand what they are doing that is harming their environments, that is harming their material wealth, that's harming their social fabric, that's harming the other stakeholders, that's harming the community, and then applying knowledge about sustainability to fix these problems. So understanding where we are going wrong, becoming aware of where we are going wrong, how we are hurting our environments, and then taking steps to stop these to stop making these mistakes. So that is another empowerment strategies, which means we don't tell people what needs to be done. We educate them, we propagate the word, and then they start realizing themselves. They identify their problems and they start rectifying these problems themselves in and through the competence that they have achieved. Increasing participation opportunities by using participation instruments. This is one of my favorite methods of sustainability communication. It involves the ability to critically reflect on the uncertainties and risks, different types of rationality, as well as the consequences of one's choices, one's actions, which are an intrinsic part of such an engagement. Now, sustainability brings with it a whole bunch of risks. When we talk about sustainability, sustainability essentially involves an attention to risks. And when we talk about sustainability, we are essentially talking about the things that happen in the environment that we can and cannot predict. So we will discuss this more when we talk about risk communication being a part of sustainability communication in the next lecture. But today in this lecture we will discuss some participation instruments. How do we reflect critically on what is happening? When we are part of a community, we just go through the experiences. It's run of the mill. You get in, you do something, you come out. But then we need to stop and think about what is going on, what we are doing wrong, how are we harming the environment without realizing it. And at this point I would like to show you a clip. We have some participation instruments, we have workshops, we have conferences, we have discussions, we have something called as a Nukkad Natak. Nukkad is the square or the corner of a street, and Natak means theatre. So we have theatre groups, etc. And I would like to show you a clip called Theatre for the Oppressed, Researching Options Through Participation. This has been devised by a group called Participart.com, which is in Italy, and I'll first show you the website of this organization. They are doing a lot to they're using creativity, they are using theater to educate people about social development, and I found their video on YouTube. And here is the permission. I requested them for permission to use the video in this course, and I received permission, and only after getting this permission I am showing you this video. So there's no copyright infringement here, and with their permission I'm showing you this video, and I'm very grateful to the team at Participart that has created this video and that has given me permission to use this video to share it with all of you. So it's a 6-minute video and I'm going to play it here now.
Human activities on Earth provoke important environmental changes. Pollution, floods, and land grabbing deeply affect people's lives and work. How do people cope with these changes? What are the consequences? who pays the price for these changes? What do people want? What do they expect from local authorities? What do local authorities already do? To answer these questions, we have started a research project that involves communities by using the theater of the oppressed. The theater of the oppressed is a set of tools that enable people to bring their issues to the stage and invite audiences to propose a solution. First, through a series of games and exercises, participants are able to deepen their relationships. Games can create challenges and also encourage solidarity. Participants gain the confidence to share their stories and talk about oppression. The goal is to create a play that reveals the most urgent problems the community is facing. Questions are then raised about the stories. What happens before or after? How would you react if the same thing happened to you? How do you generally cope with such a situation? Once all participants have agreed on a shared concern to enact, and the play is ready, it is performed for a larger audience. The audience is invited to intervene, to analyze the situation, to offer comments and assess whether the problem is addressed effectively, and to propose new options or strategies to tackle the problem. They then rehearse the changes they want to see made in the play in order to better overcome oppression. A facilitator, called the Joker, stimulates participation through games and questions, focusing activities on the specific problem the community wants to address. The Joker also collects proposals. These proposals are then brought to local authorities in order to determine what can be done, what is already being done, and what additional challenges there are to overcome.
Kwa mwanasheria wizarani imeshindikana, mama unashangona.
Okay, so this is a very interesting method of talking about or communicating about sustainability, and more theaters like this are available, or more examples of this type are available on the same website. The other method in sustainability communication is examining educational processes. The goal of education for sustainable development is to help create the conditions for self-determined and autonomous action, plus training changes in behavior. ESD aims at developing and enhancing the creative potential in the individual, his competencies in communication and cooperative work, as well as problem solving and taking action. So we examine our educational processes and we see what kinds of competencies we are developing, and then we help create the conditions for autonomous action. And then we train people to change their own behavior. We don't tell them how to change their behavior, we stimulate the changes in behavior in the people who are actually undergoing this training and who are also part of the community. So all of this in turn empowers the community, and eventually the word of mouth then sort of encourages the other people in the community to understand the value of sustainability and to start incorporating in their work. So a few principles of sustainability communication that have been proposed by Bernhardt are accountability of policies, decisions, actions, products and performance, accuracy of information, completeness of information that is propagated, comparability of performance of different stakeholders, context for a claim, materiality or significance of issues for stakeholders, reliability of the information that is propagated, responsiveness to stakeholders, stakeholder inclusiveness, and transparency of information. Now, if you go through this list and you go through whatever we have discussed earlier in when we were discussing methods in sustainability communication, and if you also revisit the video, you will realize that the community is such an integral part of sustainability. Any discussion, any talk, any training in sustainability cannot be complete, cannot even start without understanding what the community is, without engaging with the community, without becoming a part of the community. As experts, we can give one-sided information, but that will just, it'll vanish in thin air, it'll be out there hanging somewhere. If we want whatever we are doing to have any value, if we wanted to make a real difference, then we really need to be a part of the community and engage with the community and encourage participation from the community, and only in and through their inputs can we move further with our efforts to help the community alleviate its or get rid of its problems, or help them deal with their problems. And that is where we will stop today, and we will continue with specific approaches to sustainability communication in the next week of classes. Thank you very much for listening.